What up, Blockchain Nation? What up, YouTube? Thank you guys so much for subscribing to this channel. Really appreciate it. It is I, once again, saying thank you. So, today we're going to talk about something. My last video was on, okay, I almost forgot. Check out how to become a certified blockchain developer. And I talked about how in this current space, when you're applying for a job, it seems that more jobs are available in two areas. As a developer, either on Hyperledger Fabric or developing on Ethereum. So today I just want to talk about the 5 differences in Ethereum and Hyperledger Fabric. Just to say this once again, they are both concepts in blockchain technology. By definition, I love what Bettina Wahlberg said, is a distributed ledger of assets and transactions across a peer-to-peer network, and those transactions are made secure through clever cryptography. Different people have different definitions for blockchain. A developer would say it's the tools and concepts that allows us to have a distributed database or a distributed network. Anyways, check out my previous videos for more details about that. I'll put a link below. So today, highlighting the major differences between Ethereum and Hyperledger Fabric. Well, here we go. So difference number 1 is in the type of blockchain. Ethereum is a private and a permissionless system, which means that anybody can go onto the Ethereum network, download the entire network on your laptop, and then you can begin to do whatever you want to do. You know, basically from a development standpoint, you can begin to deploy, write smart contracts, and write lists. So the bottom line is it's public and it's permissionless, which means anybody pretty much has access to the network. Hope that makes sense. Now, with Hyperledger doesn't work that way. It's not public. Hyperledger is permissioned and it's private. You can set up your Hyperledger or your Fabric infrastructure in your private network. That's why most companies prefer to use Hyperledger. So in my opinion, Hyperledger is more for business to business concepts, or if I want to build something that's relating between two businesses or several businesses, I would use Hyperledger. But if it's something like business to customer, like the Amazons of the future and what the next big social media platform will be that will run on blockchain, it will probably use something public and permissionless like Ethereum. So difference number 1 is that Ethereum, while Ethereum is public and permissionless, Hyperledger is a private permissioned network. All right, difference number 2 is the consensus algorithm. Now, with Ethereum, because a blockchain is a distributed network, which means that everybody pretty much has a copy. It is very, very important that, well, everybody on the network has a copy. So it's very important that at every point in time, every single participant or every single node knows the state of the network, which means that they all have to be in agreement, which means they all have to come to consensus. So Ethereum platforms and Hyperledger platforms, Hyperledger Fabric platforms have different ways of arriving at consensus. For Ethereum, as of this recording, uses something called proof of work. I know eventually they're changing that to proof of stake or something more robust, because proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses, is kind of slow. So Ethereum currently uses proof of work and it can do more transactions than Bitcoin, but still they're trying to scale it by changing the consensus algorithm. Hope that makes sense. But for Hyperledger Fabric, it uses a different consensus algorithm. It's a Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus algorithm, which is very different from proof of work. So while Ethereum uses proof of work as of this recording, then they're going to scale. Hyperledger Fabric uses a Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus algorithm. Hope that makes sense. So that's difference number 2. All right, difference number 3. Ethereum and Hyperledger Fabric are different in the concept of how they handle something called a smart contract. A smart contract is a piece of executable code that can be run when certain instructions are given. Smart contracts are built using a programming language which is a little bit like JavaScript, and it's called Solidity. But in Hyperledger Fabric, the term smart contract is called chain code. So in Ethereum, it's called a smart contract. In Hyperledger, it's the same concept, but you call it chain code, and it's a totally different underneath the hood, it uses different programming language to build smart contracts, or in Hyperledger, chaincode. Doesn't use Solidity, but you can use your mainstream languages like JavaScript and Go to build chaincode. Hyperledger also has some SDKs that you can integrate with other programming languages like Node.js. So when it comes to smart contracts, Ethereum, it uses Solidity, but in Hyperledger, they are not called smart contracts, they're called chaincode, and it uses a different programming language. So that's difference number 3. So difference number 4 is with the development tools you use on both environments. Now, for building on Ethereum, you use a Solidity IDE for writing your smart contracts, but there are different prerequisites for building applications on Ethereum. You use tools like Truffle, you use tools like Ganache, you can install the Solidity compiler on your local environment, or you can use an IDE that's provided online, which is really cool. But for Hyperledger Fabric, you'll have to, because it's a permissioned private system, you'll have to actually install the Fabric infrastructure on your local machine. You can install it on Ubuntu. You can have a Docker container service if you're running on Windows, and it uses different set of prerequisites. It doesn't use Ganache, it doesn't use Truffle. It's a different concept entirely. So for our next episode, we're going to go into details of how to build, or the prerequisites for building on both Ethereum and Hyperledger. But for the sake of this video, they both use entirely two development tools for building applications on Ethereum and also on Hyperledger Fabric. Last but not least, difference number 5. Last difference that I'll highlight between Hyperledger and Ethereum, or Hyperledger Fabric and Ethereum, is that with Hyperledger Fabric, it doesn't have any kind of built-in cryptocurrency. It's built, or is designed mainly for building applications, no cryptocurrency involved. But with Ethereum, has its own cryptocurrency, of course, called Ether. So Hyperledger Fabric, no cryptocurrency. Ethereum, Ether, cryptocurrency. That's the last major difference. So looking out for jobs in that space, in my personal opinion, I think there are other concepts like multi-chain, which I highlighted in a previous video, and others. But looking out for, if you're trying to build a career as a developer in this blockchain technology space, you should focus on either Ethereum or Hyperledger Fabric. As of this recording, Hyperledger is pretty much powered and chaired by the Linux Foundation, and they have some projects that they are working on under the Hyperledger greenhouse. There's Hyperledger Fabric, there's Hyperledger Silo, there's a Sawtooth, and a host of other projects. But right now, as of what's today? Today is, well, as of May 2019. Majorly, those are the major project with Hyperledger is Hyperledger Fabric, which is where you see most job offers. So build on Hyperledger, build on Ethereum, or build on both. You choose. So I hope this helps. I hope this helps. If it does, please click subscribe below, hit the like button. Having said that, my wish for you is that you learn how to code, because coding is changing, will change the world, especially this blockchain, distributed ledger technology space. And in my personal opinion, those who get involved early will greatly impact the future. And if that's you, then let's go change the world.